The most photographed woman of the 20th century grew up as a number. Ward 3,463. That was her entry in the ledger of the Los Angeles orphan's home. From a window of that orphanage, a 9-year-old girl could see the RKO studio water tower. Hollywood was that close. 17 years later, Hollywood belonged to her. So who really invented Marilyn Monroe, the studios or the girl at the window? She was born Norma Jeane Mortensen on the 1st of June, 1926 in Los Angeles. Her mother, Gladys, cut film negatives for the studios. The movies paid for the crib. They just couldn't hold the family together. Norma Jeane was 2 weeks old when Gladys placed her with a foster family in Hawthorne. For 7 years, that was home. Then Gladys tried again. She bought a small house near the Hollywood Bowl. It lasted about a year. In 1934, Gladys suffered a severe breakdown and was institutionalized. On the 13th of September, 1935, Norma Jeane entered the orphanage as ward number 3,463. Now hold that year in your mind, 1,935. America was crawling out of the Great Depression, and the breadlines were still real. Nobody owned a television because television didn't exist yet. Families huddled around the radio, and the biggest box office star in the country was Shirley Temple. A 7-year-old girl was single-handedly keeping a studio alive. 5 film companies ran Hollywood like an assembly line, manufacturing dreams by the yard. That was the machine, humming outside Norma Jeane's window. Over the next years, she was moved through foster homes again and again. The counts vary by telling, but it was around a dozen placements. In some of those homes, she was abused. She said later that she never felt like she belonged to anyone. At 16, facing yet another placement, she took the only exit available in 1942. She married the boy next door, a teenage housewife named Norma Jeane Doherty. The war rewrote it. Her husband shipped out, and Norma Jeane went to work at the radio plane factory. She sprayed varnish on target drones, 10-hour shifts, glue and dust. Then, in 1944, an Army photographer walked in. His assignment was photographing women supporting the war effort. He aimed his camera at the girl on the assembly line. The negatives came back. He told her she belonged in front of a lens, not behind a spray gun. Within 2 years, her face was on magazine covers across the country. The marriage didn't survive the modeling career. In 1946, 20th Century Fox gave her a screen test and a new name, Marilyn, after a Broadway star. Monroe, from her mother's family. $75 a week, and they dropped her within a year anyway. Here's the part the legend skips. Nothing about her rise was instant. Bit parts, rejections, years of them. In 1949, broke. She posed for a nude calendar for $50. When the photos surfaced in 1952, the studio told her to deny everything. She refused. She told the press she needed the money for rent. And the public, expecting a scandal, fell in love with the honesty instead. By 1953, she was carrying hit films. Then came the number that changed her. In Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, her co-star Jane Russell earned around $200,000. Marilyn, the face on every poster, earned roughly $18,000. Everyone assumed the blonde didn't read the fine print. What if she did? By 1955, Marilyn Monroe was the most famous woman on the planet. The white dress, the smile, an image so bright it blinded everyone standing near it. The image was a product. The woman was not. Before scenes, her hands shook. She got physically sick from stage fright. She couldn't sleep, and the pills that fixed the nights started breaking the days. And then she did the thing nobody in the machine expected. She walked off the lot. She left Hollywood for New York. She announced Marilyn Monroe Productions. Her own company, she held 51%. Hollywood had barely seen that since the silent era. The studio laughed. Then the studio blinked. On the 31st of December 1955, Fox signed a new deal, $100,000 a picture, and approval over her directors. The woman they'd paid $18,000 had rewritten the rules of the system that built her. Her company put out Bus Stop in 1956 and The Prince and the Showgirl in 1957. In 1959, Some Like It Hot became one of the biggest comedies ever made. It won her a Golden Globe. The image printed money, but the woman inside it still wasn't sleeping. How long can anyone keep playing a character the whole planet believes is real? The last act came fast. Her marriage to playwright Arthur Miller lasted from 1956 to 1961. Inside it, she lost pregnancies she desperately wanted. The Misfits, in 1961, was Miller's script and her final completed film. The marriage ended before the movie even premiered. That February, she spent time locked in a psychiatric clinic in New York. She wrote that the experience terrified her. The dependence on sedatives deepened. In 1962, she started a new film, Something's Got to Give, and kept missing shooting days. On the 19th of May, 1962, she stood in Madison Square Garden. She sang Happy Birthday to President Kennedy. The world saw glitter. The studio saw an absence list, and weeks later, Fox fired its biggest star. They were negotiating her return when the story ended. On the night of the 4th of August, 1962, Marilyn Monroe died at her home in Brentwood. She was 36. The coroner ruled it an overdose of sedatives, a probable suicide. Theories have circled that ruling for 60 years. In 1982, prosecutors reopened the case and found no evidence of foul play. The file closed. The questions never did. So let's go back to the image and take it apart one last time. The image said dumb blonde. Her estate inventory listed a personal library of more than 400 books, including first editions. She was writing poetry when she died. The image said manufactured product. The record shows a woman who founded her own company. She beat the studio system at its own contract game. The image said she only cared about the spotlight. The story goes that she personally called a Hollywood nightclub to get Ella Fitzgerald booked. She promised to sit at a front table every night. Fitzgerald said she owed her a real debt. Today, her face is one of the most licensed images on earth. Every star who fights a studio for ownership of their work. They're all walking a road she paved in 1955. The girl who entered the ledger as a number, she became the single most recognized face of her century. And the price of that trade is the question that never goes away, isn't it? Remember the window, a 9-year-old Ward staring at a studio water tower, inventing a way out. Norma Jeane built Marilyn to escape. Then Marilyn became the one thing Norma Jeane couldn't escape. So which one do you remember, the invention or the inventor? Tell us in the comments. And if stories like this one stay with you, subscribe. There's always another face behind the image.